Okay, so the final step here is going to be our zipper installation, and don't let this intimidate you because actually I think it's awesome and a lot of fun. So what you're gonna do, I recommend Wash Away Wonder Tape. Now, if you haven't used this before, I certainly recommend you try it. It just makes it a lot easier. You can certainly do this with pins also, but I'm gonna use Wonder Tape. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm gonna open up one side of my jacket front, and on the wrong side of both the lining and the main fabric, I am going to install this Wonder Tape. So let me go ahead and do that, and I'm just installing it right along the edge. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be folding in this edge of fabric 1/2 inch on both our main fabric and on our lining. The great thing is if you can kind of take it off and reapply it. You want to make sure that you're not stretching your fabric when you're at this step. And then what you're going to do is you're going to peel off the backing. If it'll cooperate with me. Peel off the backing. It's basically just like two-sided tape. Peel off the backing, and then I'm going to fold this in so that wrong sides are together about 1/2 inch. Now let me eyeball this real quick, but I will take my seam gauge and check. Yeah, that's 1/2 inch. So I will just go ahead and do that all along the front, checking a couple times along the way to make sure that my 1/2 inch is consistent. And then that looks like where I ended with the seam tape, or with the Wonder Tape. So I'm going to go ahead and do bottom area. This is the hemband. And I also want to make sure that my seam for my hemband is pushed down into the hemband. It just makes for a slightly nicer finish. Extra. Sometimes this backing can be hard to get off. Especially I don't have any nails right now, which doesn't make it easier. Actually, I'm sorry, I meant you want your seam to be pressed up for the hemband, not down. And then put this in 1/2 inch. 1/2 inch. And to make sure that it's a smooth transition. Here. Just readjust this part. Perfect. Okay, great. And so now all I have to do is this last side of the lining fabric. I got these huge rolls of Wash Away Wonder Tape, and so it can be a challenge to use the whole roll as I'm trying to apply it, so I tend to cut off strips. Just do them strips at a time. I like using Wonder Tape in this step too, because in the next step, using pins, they can get in the way a little bit more. I mean, you certainly can still do it that way, but it's just a tiny bit more challenging in my opinion. Okay, so when you're at the top, what you're going to want, here, let me show you when I take this off. Came off. I pulled the backing off too hard, so it kind of came up a little bit, but that's okay. Very sticky. Okay, so when you get to the top here, what you're going to want, when you fold it 1/2 inch under, you're gonna wanna still fold it right on that seam here, which is the neckband seam. You see where we're at right now? This is the neckband seam. And you're going to want to fold that seam allowance towards the back so that it's against your lining fabric. And that will just help with the finish of the zipper. So I'm going to press this down right sides together 1/2 inch. I'm going to check again. Yep, to make sure I'm right on. I'm usually pretty good at eyeballing the measurements, but it's always good to recheck. So now that I'm about to be done with this, there we go, all the way down to the bottom. Okay, so now what we're going to do is install 1/2 of our zipper. So you're gonna wanna do this to the other side as well. Where did my zipper go? Okay, so here's my zipper. And you'll notice that this is a very long zipper. This is a 24 inch. Now, I recommend getting a much longer zipper, maybe not much longer, but a longer zipper than you think you'll need or than what's listed, because I'm gonna show you how to shorten this, okay? So this is a separating zipper. So I'm gonna separate it, and I'm going to use just this right side for right now, okay? So what you're gonna wanna do is you're going to insert this zipper into the front opening, and you're gonna wanna pin it in place. Now you're gonna wanna make sure that the front and of course the back is lined up really well, okay? So that you have a good finish. So take the time to make sure that the very bottom of the zipper goes to the bottom of the hemband, because it just looks so much prettier. If you use zippers without shortening them and they're in two inch increments, what's gonna happen is, let's say I would use a 16 inch for this particular design, I may have that much left at the bottom. So by having a longer zipper and actually shortening it to the exact size that you need, it just creates such a nicer end product. Okay, so this is a lot of layers to go through, so that is okay. The hemband will also add some really nice stability to the next step, which is going to be your top stitching. Okay, and I'm just checking on the back. There we go. Now, I suppose theoretically you could use hem tape too here, but I would be afraid that it would add a little bit too much bulk. But you can try it. Especially if you have a cover stitch, it should probably work fine, but I'm going to go give this to my niece right now after I'm done with these videos, and she's going to be so excited. I already made one for her brother and for my 2 children. So she's been waiting for hers. Okay, so now you can see as I'm getting towards the top, look at how long my zipper is, right? So what I'm going to want to do is I want the teeth to go up as high as possible on here, but I still need a little bit of extra room to have so that I can insert it. So it looks like right here is going to be the stopping point. I need my zipper to be this long, so I'm going to just snip it off there. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove approximately 3 teeth from the end with some needle nose pliers. All you have to do is grab these needle nose pliers grab the zipper tooth and rip it off. There's one. Two. And three. Okay, so now you can see that this edge is going to fit in really nicely, getting that really nicely here. Actually, look, you see how it's a little bunchy still? So I'm gonna need to remove just a little bit more, but I'm not going to take more teeth out. See, now that lays so much better. So I'm gonna want the edge of my zipper, the edge right there, to be on the inside because I don't want that to be rough against their neck, right? That little spot. So you're just gonna push that in a little bit. Pin this into place. And then, oh, of course it comes off. Pin it into place just like so, okay? Now I'm going to finish with the pinning of the rest of my zipper. Okay, that looks beautiful. So while I've been doing this, I've been feeling along the back side to make sure that it's lined up, right? And it looks all good. Okay, so I have one side done and I'm going to do the same thing to the other side, but I'm going to stop the film while I do that, so I'll be right back. And actually, before I do that, I'm going to take this side of the zipper that I cut off, I'm going to place it together with my other side, and I'm going to cut off the same amount here, plus a little bit more, and then I'm going to remove with needle nose pliers the same three that I did on the other side. Now, this will help me to make sure that my finished zipper is going to be the same length and the same number of teeth on both sides. Because that would be dumb, right? If I, for some reason, as I'm attaching it to this side, if I accidentally stretch the fabric and then I have three more teeth here on this side. So this will help me to make sure that this side is being installed correctly. So I'll be right back while I do this other side. Okay, so now comes the last step. You'll see here that I installed the other side of my zipper as well, or I have it all pinned. And so I'm going to show you now how we are actually going to sew this in. So on a cover stitch, if that's what you're using, first of all, if you're using a standard sewing machine, you need to make sure to use a zipper foot. But for the standard sewing, or excuse me, for the cover stitch, if you start with this end, so you're feeding it through this way, you should have enough room. If you are using a wide cover stitch and not a narrow, you should be able to sew this very easily and avoid the zipper while going all the way around the design. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna start on this end. We're gonna start at the bottom of the hemband. We're gonna go all the way up. We are going to stop right here, pivot. We're gonna turn this around, go all the way around the neckline, and then pivot here and go all the way down. So let me show you what that finished is going to look like. going to pivot around the neckline, and I'm going to sew the seam allowance down along the neckline. What you're going to want to do when you do this neckline is you're going to want to make sure that your lining fabric on the back is pushed down also, so that it's not bunched up when you're doing this step. So just with your fingers underneath, just make sure that you're kind of moving that out of the way. I'm going to pivot and come down the bottom zipper. You get a little bunching in your fabric, stop, put up your presser foot, readjust. If you do it a couple of times, you should be able to prevent any significant bunching. Sometimes over the hemband, it's a little harder to prevent that, but still possible. And towards the end. There we go. And we're all done. Let me remove these pins. I feel like this was a thicker zipper than usual because my pins are having a hard time coming out. Okay, so now what I need to do is first I need to tie off my cover stitch ends and secure them. So let me tie these in a knot. I always secure both ends of my cover stitch, even though many people say that they don't need to. But I like to be better safe than sorry. There's one side. Where is my seam ripper? This is the beginning of, oh, okay, here it is. My tools get caught underneath my sewing machine all the time. Okay, so we pull those threads to the back. I just want to make sure that it has just a beautiful finish, especially because this is reversible. So I can't just tie these off all messy, because when my sweet niece reverses this, you'll be able to see that. And the cool thing is that when she does reverse it, you're gonna have this really fun stitching on the inside. So here we go, and we have one more step of what we have to do to complete this, and that is, because I shortened a zipper, the zipper does not have a stopper at the very top. So all you have to do is install a couple of whip stitches, and let me show you how to do that. With just a needle and thread. Do not skip this step because your zipper will fly off if you do. My dog's snoring in the background. Okay. So what you can do is to make sure that the edge is, oh, look, I didn't get that whole, this old tooth removed. Do that now. Okay, so what you're gonna wanna do is right above the last tooth that's on here, you can start from the inside and you can just do a couple whip stitches and do it through all the layers about 5 to 6 times. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, so now I'm going to tie this off. Okay. I'm going to do this to the other side too, so that I can show you the beautiful functional zipper. And if it does fly off, you can put it back on. It's just, why deal with that, right? Okay. And there you go. Got some of this extra off too. Okay, great. So now we are done. So the zipper, perfect. You see those stoppers? Look at, and by the way, look at how even my zipper is. I mean, how awesome is that? I probably should have added a little extra length because after I top stitched, it pushed it up, but it's beautiful. So reversible. Now, and by the way, these welt pockets are perfect. Look at how beautiful they look. If they get pushed to the back, it doesn't really matter. You can push them to the front very easily. And then now, reversible, everything is concealed. Look how beautiful that stitching looks, the reverse cover stitch for a basic reversible jacket. Now, if you want to put welt pockets on the front, you can certainly do that too. I'm sorry, on the inside, so that you have welt pockets on the inside as well when you reverse it. That works, but if you guys have any questions, let me know.